Hi everybody, and welcome to Lovefraud Live. If you are or were romantically involved with someone whom you now believe is a sociopath, sooner or later this person probably accused you of cheating. I'm Donna Andersen, author of Lovefraud.com, and tonight I'm going to explain a classic sociopathic control strategy, which is accusing you of cheating. This is a live streaming show, and I'll answer your questions after this presentation, so please send them along as we go along. So here's my experience with this phenomenon. I was sitting at my kitchen table one day during my marriage to the sociopath, James Montgomery. We were arguing. I don't remember what we were arguing about. We argued a lot. All of a sudden, Montgomery accused me of sleeping with another man. I was shocked. I had been friends with this man for about 15 years before I even met Montgomery. We were good friends, but that was it, friends. Still, Montgomery raged at me. "I know you had sex with him," he said. I denied this vociferously, but Montgomery kept accusing, and I kept denying, and eventually he backed down. But why did he start this episode to begin with? The accusation came out of thin air. I hadn't even seen my friend in months. So why did my ex-husband make this totally unfounded accusation? Well, first of all, most sociopaths cheat. I would say that all sociopaths cheat, but a few people have told me that the sociopath they were with did not cheat. Maybe it's true, or maybe those sociopaths were just really good at hiding it. Anyway, sociopaths cannot love. They do not feel empathy, loyalty, or remorse. But they want sex, lots of sex, with lots of variety, and that means they want lots of partners. Even when they are supposedly in a committed relationship, sociopaths cheat without any qualms. And since they cheat, they assume everybody else does also. But that's not the prime reason why Montgomery accused me of sleeping with my friend. His true purpose was to assert control over me. Had I admitted to sex with this man, Montgomery would have held it over me forever. He would have used it to prove my unworthiness and besmirch my character. And this accusation would have been just the beginning. He would have accused me of other things as well, all in an effort to tear me down mentally and emotionally. So, what was his objective? To make me more submissive. Accusing you of cheating is a standard sociopathic control strategy. A sociopath may rage that you're cheating with your coworkers, your neighbors, or other parents from your kids' sports teams. Even if you are totally innocent and you've never even spoken to some of these people, the tirades may be almost unbearable. So, what do you do? What do you do when you're bombarded with unfounded accusations? You may try to avoid the sociopath's rage by making sure that you don't give him or her any reason to make these wild accusations. So you don't talk to anybody at work. You limit your contact with your neighbors or those other parents. In other words, you isolate yourself. And isolation places you further under the sociopath's control. So, if a partner who exhibits sociopathic traits unjustifiably accuses you of cheating, recognize what it is: a tactic for asserting control over you. It's a warning sign that you should get out of the relationship as soon as you can. Do not admit to cheating that you didn't do just to get the sociopath to stop raging. In fact, do not admit to cheating even if you did do it. Any admission of guilt will make the sociopath ratchet up the abuse exponentially and could make escaping the relationship more difficult. Here's the important point. As painful and as unjustified as it is, do not take the accusations personally. Now, this is hard. You may pride yourself on your integrity, so when someone defames your character, you're upset and even insulted. When you are unjustly accused, your first inclination is to defend yourself. You deny the accusation, as you should. But here's the important part. Do not internalize what the sociopath has said about you. Do not rack your brain trying to figure out how your partner got the impression that you were cheating. The truth is that he or she made it up. It has no basis in fact. So you should not take the accusations personally. Remember, the sociopath never cared about you one way or the other. You were a convenient target. You had something that he or she wanted. Or you presented an opportunity for the sociopath's amusement. Sociopaths do what they do because that's what they do. You just happened to be the target. Of course, that's not what the sociopath told you. First, he or she proclaimed love and devotion, or a sterling opportunity to succeed together, whatever the promise was. And then, when the promise started falling apart, the sociopath told you it was all your fault. You, as a normal human being, believed the original promise. How could anybody say those words and not mean them? So when the blame started flying from the person who made the promise, well, you believe that as well. As we say on Love Fraud, the sociopath is the lie. They are missing the parts, such as a conscience and emotional connections to other people, that make the rest of us human. The sociopath lied because that's what they do. They made false accusations because that's what they do. Still, there is a lesson here. When we realize that we've become involved with a sociopath, we need to reflect on how and why it happened. There is a reason that we went along with the sociopath's program, and that is something we do need to take personally for our own recovery and growth. This does not at all excuse the sociopath's heartless behavior, nor is it meant to blame you. But most of us got caught up in the relationship because we wanted to believe the original promise. We have to ask ourselves, what was missing within us that allowed us to believe? Did we have an experience in our past that made us susceptible to the manipulation? If so, it's time to look at these issues and heal ourselves. So, as we extricate ourselves from the sociopath, understand that this is how they are. Their behavior is not our fault, and we shouldn't take it personally. But we should take very personally the opportunity to excavate the old erroneous tapes that are playing in our heads and create a wonderful new life for ourselves. Okay. All right, so let's see what kind of questions we have today. Okay, Claire says, I've been triggered by the attack on your Capitol and subsequent gaslighting by the GOP. How do I explain to people that it triggers me because it's like what happens in abuse? the abuse, it's understandable that when you see violence, and there was some violence in that particular incident, that it can remind you of whatever abuse you experienced. Sometimes it's hard for people who have not had these experiences to understand what it's like. We come across that a lot, in that people who themselves have not been in a situation where they've had a close encounter with a sociopath and don't know what narcissistic abuse actually feels like, they have a very difficult time understanding what it really is. In fact, there's actually a protective mechanism going on here. And what I mean by that is that people find it very difficult to listen to empathetically someone who has been in a situation like this. And one of the reasons is because it's scary. You know, if somebody has been in an abusive relationship and they're talking to someone about it, well, that person has like filters that go up to keep them from hearing what the experience was like. And the reason is because they, it's scary. If this experience happened to you, well, then possibly it could happen to them, and they don't want to think about the possibility that it might happen to them, so consequently they do not have the ability to authentically hear, you know, what you're talking about. And that's a reason why this, like this today, with all of our people who are chatting among themselves, that's why these opportunities are important, because in all honesty, people who have not been in a situation of abuse really have a hard time understanding it. So probably the best thing you can do is talk to other people who have been in abusive situations, because they can relate to what you're saying and perhaps offer some advice or at least some moral support. Okay. Well, Claire, thank you for reading the my audio book. I'm glad you liked it. I hope you'll leave a good review on Audible. It was very interesting for me. I mentioned this before. I hadn't looked at the book in quite a while, but I spent this summer recording it, and I was like, wow, this is a heck of a story. So I appreciate your kind words, and I would really appreciate it also if you could leave a review. Okay. Monica says, every one of my sociopathic partners cheated on me. Yeah, I left out that part. My ex-husband, when I started to finally understand what was going on and start looking through all these mounds of papers that he left in my home office that I built for him, I mean, I found evidence of 20, 30 other women that he was involved with before and during our marriage. In fact, when I divorced him, I had 3 other women that he had affairs with, plus the parents of the wife before me who passed away while she was married to him. They all testified at my divorce. So, I mean, this man, this is what he did. He lived off of women. So, okay. Mary says, not all sociopaths are into sex. Do they substitute it with other things such as power and control? Yes, you are correct. Not all sociopaths are into sex. I mean, most of them are, a lot of them are, but there are exceptions. And you have to keep in mind that sociopaths essentially want 3 things in life: power, control, and sex. And of those 3, mostly they want the power and control. I mean, sex is like, you know, the cherry on top of an ice cream sundae in some cases. in fact, I know of many situations in which a sociopath will like withhold sex in order to exert control over someone else. And they also view sex as just another strategy, another tool in the toolkit for manipulating people, especially if they can get involved with a situation in which they have sex with someone and that person is compromised. You know, perhaps they're married, perhaps they're in an important position of authority or something like that. Well, now they have the opportunity for blackmail. So absolutely, it's mostly about power and control, but sex is a close third place, you know, for a lot of people, a lot of sociopaths. Okay. Okay, so Sharon says, has anyone else here been raped by their abuser? I've healed in every trauma except this one. Do you have any advice, please? We have some webinars on Lovefraud. It's education.lovefraud.com on EFT Tapping, which is Emotional Freedom Techniques Tapping. And I've spoken about this on some of the other Lovefraud Live programs, but this is an alternative type of therapy whereby you tap certain places, like here, above your eyebrows, next to your eyes, below your eyes, like this, and then like this. And you do that while you're making statements. Like, for example, even though I was raped by my ex, I truly love and accept myself. And, you know, you keep going through this, and this technique speaks directly to your body. And, you know, a trauma like this, especially a trauma like a rape, gets locked into your body. And, you know, sometimes you're not even psychologically strong enough to deal with it, you know, because the pain is so terrific. It's so massive. So if you use this technique, it bypasses your mind and goes directly to your body. And I mean, it may look like voodoo, but it works. And in fact, on our pages where we talk about the programs on the webinars, there's a link there that goes to another website that lists 400 scientific studies proving that this technique works. Essentially what it is CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's cognitive behavioral therapy, but faster. You know, because if you do cognitive behavioral therapy, the idea is to desensitize you to things that may have happened. And one of the ways that you do that is by bringing it to mind in a safe environment. And so the tapping does the same thing, but it's a lot faster. It's amazing. I mean, it has definitely, they've been using it with war veterans, you know, people who have come back from battle and who have these, you know, really traumatic memories. They used it in Bosnia, you know, when people who had witnessed massacres and things like that. So it's amazing technique. So that long explanation amounts to, I suggest that you look into it. We have the webinars that are specifically for people who've been involved with sociopaths, but you can also go online. There's information online available, you know, for the technique in general, and it's amazing. It's like amazing stuff, and it's something that you can do yourself. There are practitioners. There are people who can, you know, if you want to work with someone, which might be a good idea given the depth of the trauma that you have. But there are psychologists and other therapists who use this technique. So you could also, you know, find people that could help you with it. But that's what I would suggest. Okay. All right, so Patricia is joining us from England tonight. Well, that's terrific. Thank you. It must be late there. 52-year-old sister is definitely a sociopath. Accuses others of cheating, yet she is promiscuous. Yeah, that's a typical sociopathic thing where, they accuse you of cheating or doing anything that they themselves are doing. Obviously hypocritical, but again, that's what they do. And that's why it's important to, whenever you realize that you've been involved and targeted by a sociopath, you can't take it personally. You cannot think, what is wrong with me that this person treated me this way? You don't think that way. There's nothing wrong with you. This is the way they treat everybody. This is what they do. This is who they are. And that's what I mean by not taking it personally. If he hadn't done it to you, he would have done it to the next one. And that's why, a lot of people are often concerned that, after their relationship has ended with a sociopath, and if it's a guy, he's moved on to another woman, and, people are worried that, he'll treat the other woman better. No, he won't. It's going to be the same. He'll do exactly the same thing that he did to you. It'll be wonderful in the beginning while he's doing the love bombing, and then sooner or later, all the same games will start, and it's the same thing. So it was never about you. Nothing you could have done would have made this person treat you any better. Okay. All right, so Flower Wolf says, I get triggered when I see caps because my sociopath would wear a hunting and fishing or a fishing show cap around me, and then he would come into the shop I work at. Okay, now believe it or not, that's exactly the type of thing that you could take care of with EFT tapping, because the EFT tapping is designed to work on very specific memories. And if the memory of the cap is something that you could tap on, it says, even though I am triggered by a cap, I truly love and accept myself. And so you do that, and you go through the sequence, and you do it a few times, and measure like how much you still feel the trigger. But something like that is absolutely perfect for EFT tapping. So I recommend that you look into it so that you could make that go away. Okay. Alrighty. Well, that appears to be the end of the questions for today. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here on Lovefraud Live. And we'll see you next time, next Tuesday. Bye-bye.